and then I guess you complete, right? You complete
Yeah,
buds.
you graduate buds. You're still not a SEAL. You don't get your trident.
You say you
So
don't.
no, no, you
No.
don't. So then from you graduate buds, they kind of like shake your hand, pat you on the ass, and give you a little certificate. And then you go to SEAL qualification training, SQT, and it's literally across the street from where basic buds is. And you just take all the stuff you just learned in diving and what you learned in land warfare, and you're stepping it up. Now you're starting to do like working in the house. You're you're just advancing. You're taking it to that next level. And that's like another 6 months. You go out and you do static line jumping. You do free fall. Trying to think what other classes were in there. You just do cooler shit, and it's fun.
Yeah.
It's more of a gentleman's course.
Okay.
You still
Yep.
get fucked with a little bit, but nowhere near as bad. They're starting to like try to build you up so you're operator shape when you show up to your team. And then once you graduate that, they do a nice graduation ceremony, like have family come in, all that stuff, and then you get your SEAL trident at that ceremony. Then you get orders to your team, and you go check into your team. As soon as you check into your team, they take your trident away. They're like, "Fuck you, new guy." Like, welcome, welcome to the teams. And it takes like another, depends what platoon you're in or what team you're at. It takes like another anywhere from 12 to 18 months to earn your trident.
Okay. So what is this trident? Is it a badge? Is it a pin? Is it a what is it?
Yeah, it's a pin. It's like has an eagle. Looks like a Budweiser symbol. So it's
Yeah.
has an eagle, trident, flintlock pistol, represent coming from sea, air, and land. And
That's
then it has the anchor behind it too, with representation
yeah.
of the just the Navy in general.
I know what it looks like. I just wasn't sure what you're referencing when you say they take it away, they give it to you, that kind of
Oh
stuff.
yeah, the pin.
Oh,
Yeah, they literally like, because you check in when you check into a new command, you go in your dress uniform, and they
okay.
literally just take it. They put
So
in like, all
oh,
my
go on.
experience, like they took our tridents that they put them somewhere, and then eventually you'll have a ceremony, but it's very internal to your platoon. It's very tight knit. You're talking 18 guys like max, and then you have like a pinning ceremony that's right there. We did my For me when I was a new guy, we did our pinning ceremony when we were in Afghanistan, which was really cool. After everyone
Nice.
kind of saw some combat.
Yeah, that's cool. We'll come on to that shortly. But do have a question. So, um, when you complete SQT and you head off to, between finishing that and heading off to your first SEAL team, something that you've been dreaming since fourth grade, rang the bell one time, you've gone back and completed it. When you passed it, what did you feel? What was that? What was that feeling that you felt to finally be something that you wanted to be from a tiny kid?
Fuck, I got to think. I was fired up. I was super happy, um, proud, very proud. And then I was just chomping at the bit to get to a team, get in a platoon, and then like get downrange with them. Like I was like, man, let's do it. I've been waiting years for this. Not only that, like, so say if I went like straight through boot camp, went right to SEAL training, went right through SEAL training, got to the team. You're talking it takes like roughly 3 to 4 years for someone to go enter the Navy before they're actually on like a real, potentially could be on a real combat mission.
Mhm,
And it
mhm.
takes like a long time. But I had all that fleet shit and all the other stuff before
Yeah.
that. So it took me a good, trying to think, well, 5, 6 years before I saw combat.
Okay. So you turn up to one of your SEAL teams, is that like 2008, something like that?
Yeah,
Around
2008, right in
yeah?
the beginning of 2008. I think I was in that. Maybe it was 2007. Like 2007, 2008.
Yeah.
Uh,
Okay.
and
Okay.
then went to Afghanistan, 2009.
Right. So are you able to say what SEAL team you're a part of? I don't know if you are.
Yeah, I was at Team 4 on the East
Team
Coast.
4. Okay.
Yeah.
And what are you doing for that first year? Before you mentioned Afghanistan, but I'm guessing you're doing stuff before you head out there. Is it just more training or is it actually working together as a team?
Yeah. No, you show up to the team, they throw you in a platoon, you become a new guy, start the whole hazing process over again. Um, there's a lot of traditions in the SEAL team. fun, like in a team room platoon. I mean, it sucks when you're a new guy, but like you get past it and it's fun. Some people might take it a little too far sometimes, but it could be fucking brutal sometimes. Um, but from like a more professional meaning, so they divided up in the first 6 months you could go to personal schools. So personal, like you could go to sniper school, you could go to breacher school. Breachers like using explosives, JTAC. There's driving, so there's all sorts of schools you could go to. So everyone kind of breaks apart from the platoon and keeps going around to all these different schools to get different skill sets. Then you come back. The next 6 months is the platoon working together. You split it up. You go do. It's just like SQT. You go do diving. You do land warfare. You do house runs. You do jumps. You do all this stuff together as a platoon. Um, and then as you're working through that, you start doing like mock-up missions. And then
Mhm.
the next 6 months is like the full kit and caboodle. Like you're using maybe assets from the Army or the Air Force, like getting helos or whatever aircraft overhead. Um, uh, Doing these big joint training exercises with like the whole target packages and working up so to what, and they try to build it to around like whatever area you're going to, which sometimes changes last minute. It happens, but so we did a lot of that. Ours was it was a little shorter than 18 months. I think it got cut a little short, and we went over early. Um, and then we went to my platoon. We went to Afghanistan, and we were there for like I don't know, it was like 8 9 months. It was a typically you deploy as a SEAL at the time. You were doing 6 month deployment, but they were going through this like reorganization of the SEAL teams and where they were focusing and who was doing what. And so we were on like a little longer deployment.
Okay. And what's your rank at this point when you're about to deploy within the teams?
Mm, I don't even remember. E5. I think I was still an E5. I was staff sergeant.
Okay. Okay.
I might have made E6, or I was a sergeant. I think I made like staff sergeant, called E6, leading petty officer first class, like right before I went.
Right.
Yeah, I did. When I went on deployment, I made E6 petty officer first class, so I was equivalent to a staff sergeant.
Okay. Okay. And what's your thought process about going out to war, essentially? What's
Oh,
going
dude, I
through?
was fired up. I was pumped. I was like, yeah, let's do it. Like it was.
Yeah.
Everyone was excited. It was you didn't know what you were getting into. Like you did, but you're like, man, I've done all this. Like I felt comfortable. I'm like, I've done all the training I can, and that now let's go see what. Hey, let's go do it. There's nothing
Yeah.
else you get. Like fuck it, let's go, Charlie, Mike.
Yeah. Uh, I don't need operational names or anything, but can you share anything that stands out from your time out there? Um, Essentially a story.
Yeah, I mean, there was so much that went on at deployment. It was very active for us, which is a blessing and a curse. So you're all excited to get into combat and stuff like that. But so we're I'm not going to go like detailed locations or anything, but we're in a province just slightly north of Kandahar. So we flew into Kandahar. You get there, and then you get jocked out, and we flew out on helos to our camp. And it was just our platoon. We're on by the border of Pakistan, and wasn't the mission set was basically like, hey, make sure Taliban like squash the Taliban in this area, basically by all means necessary. There was a lot of like supply routes coming in and out of Pakistan at the time, so it was cool. We got to mix it up, do a bunch of different things. The team that we were leaving was another SEAL platoon from the West Coast, but before them, they had like 150 Army soldiers at this area, and they almost got run over. And so the Army pulled out of that spot, and then they just put in like 15 SEALs, and it was like Jesus Christ. So it was very active area. We were not wanted there at all, and so we get to this little base. The base was tiny. It was like the size of a football field, and I think I was there less than 24 hours, and like woke up to mortars coming in, rockets. I was like, oh shit, this is real. And so we went through that for almost 3 months. It was that every day straight, like rockets, mortars coming in, getting attacked, occasional small arms fire. And so we had to get, and at the time, Obama became president, and they were saying we weren't allowed to operate at night. We were like, what? That's like it's the best time to go. So we were facing a lot of struggles in the beginning, and then finally we took the gloves off and we got after it. But even the first couple of weeks we were there, our sister platoon wasn't too far away from us, but they had we were the quick reaction force on that op. And when they were like, "Hey, those guys are going to go out and go after the whatever said bad guys in this location," they went out, but one of their helos crashed when it came in on the landing on the infill, turned into a hot mess. Lost a lot of friends that day. And that's when it really hit home with me. Like we were there a couple of weeks. We already been in some troops in contact. We were exchanging fire, going after these guys with the mortars and getting rocket shot at us. But then like once your buddies start getting fucked up and dying, you're like, oh, this is fucking real. I mean, you knew it was real the whole time, but just
Yeah.
hits home a different way. And so after that happened, we had some people get injured in our base, just like fragged from some of the mortars and rockets that came in. No one got shot. My buddies from another platoon, not that platoon that did the helo, we had some of them get injured, and we're getting to a point where like we have to get a little more heavy-handed here because we're being restricted a little bit on how we could operate. But we're like, man, if we keep fucking just sitting in this base, there's gonna be more of us coming home in a body bag, and so we really turned it up, and it got interesting for a couple of weeks there, and then all of a sudden, no more attacks. Like there was no one around. Like we did a good job, and then right when that thing started coming to a lull, because I think we were the most attacked FOB at that point in time in all of Afghanistan. And it was like right around the same time as like the whole Restrepo deal. And after that, we got orders where like I went out, and actually during this time was right around like Christmas or something. I went down and worked with SBS down in Kandahar, and that was fun. That was interesting. And then from there, came back to my command, or came back to my FOB with my platoon, and I flew out. We did a joint mission with some Green Berets, and then I stayed with the Green Berets because we were getting pushed into this thing called Village Stability Operations, which is totally like bread and butter of the Green Berets. And we were working with this ODA team. They were already living in a village, so the orders were like, "Hey, go live in a village. It's not going to be the full platoon. We'll be like half the platoon. You like rotate in and out. Go live in one of the mud huts amongst all the villagers. Get the locals to love you. Win their hearts and minds. Go build up a small police force, infantry team or something, and use them to go fight the Taliban." I mean, it sounds great on paper. When putting it in reality, fucking shit show.
Yeah.
So as SEALs, we're known as like, yeah, you want something like blown up, killed, destroyed, send the SEALs in. You want to go win over the hearts and minds and like build out like a whole army behind enemy lines and work with the villagers. That's right up the Green Berets alley. But we got roped into it too, which is fine. Whatever. You got to be flexible. And so my OIC was just basically like, hey, it sent me and another guy, my chief petty officer, which was like what's above a staff sergeant in the Army.
That's when you go to warrant officer. So
That's a little different. So whatever, he was me and him went over and stayed with these Green Berets and see how they're doing things, doing the whole village stability operations and going out for these tea drinks. And I stayed there for, I don't know, a couple of days with those guys. I almost got killed like 3 times. Ran over an IED, got shot at twice. It was. I was like, dude, this is us living in a village. Like we're ass gonna get smoked. And whatever, we still did it. So I went back, did that with the Green Berets. I was only with them for like 7-10 days or something like that. And I went back to my platoon during that time they located a spot that, like, basically coming down from above. They were like, hey, we want you guys like in this area, so go find a building or a village that works for you. And we found one. And we went and lived there. It was awful.
Okay, okay. That last bit did break up, but, I got the gist of it.
Okay.
It sounded like you were all over the place, in the sense of, doing different missions, different tasks.
Hmm.
Um, and was it just yourself? You said that you were attached. So is it just you, or is it your team that's gonna be attached when you talk about these?
So this first deployment, it was as a platoon. Like
As
I went and worked with like the Green Berets. Actually, my chief was with me when I worked down with the SB. Me working with the SBS had nothing to do with what else were going on. It just
ah,
we met up with the guys in Kandahar and they're like, "You want to go out on some ops with us?" And we're like, "Yeah, fuck yeah, let's go do it." I had my kit with me and I was like, "Yeah, let's roll."
no.
There was no like big training thing
Okay,
going on. Yeah, so that first deployment, it was all with my SEAL platoon.
yeah. You also mentioned there was, like, 3 times where you almost got killed.
Oh, that was just like in that 1 week with the Green
Oh,
Berets.
in the 1 week? Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that's not including all the other times. Like, yeah, it was just, we were driving on we were driving in vehicles that were not armored or nothing like that, but we were driving on like a main road. I was like, this is fucking stupid. Why are we on a main road when you think? And it was like kind of like we want to show the villagers that it's safe. And I'm like, doesn't mean it's safe. Like
Yeah,
we
Jesus.
ran over an IED and it ended up the battery. They were using the battery on like the tripwire. So like you drive over a pressure plate and the wires or whatever. The battery wasn't fully connected. So I would have been pink mist. The battery's fully connected. Literally like 2 hours before that, we were driving into a village and these two fuckheads on some dirt bikes rolled around the corner and started trying to light us up and there was like no cover anywhere. Then we started chasing after them and it was like going into this high ground. I was like, no, no, no. Don't follow them. Excuse me, let me take a drink of water. We like followed them into this like mountainous region and it was just like high ground all around. And we stopped like eventually. It was like, oh, we're getting sucked into like we're getting baited into something here.
Yeah.
And I was like, damn, dude. I was like, I'm 4 months, 5 months into deployment. I still got another 4 or 5 months to go. I was just like, why the fuck is this all happening in like 72 hours?
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So that deployment, I'm guessing, wraps up after that 8 months. You said it's, quite is a longer one than planned.
Mhm.
Was you ready to come back, or was you still, like, eager to stay out there and continue doing missions?
No, I was ready to come. So we just came. The last couple months were it was the winter in Afghanistan. It sucks, and
Yeah,
we
just
weren't we were we were literally like living off that. We're living in this village, and like we would run out of food, and sometimes it was tough getting resupplies because of the weather.
mm,
Lots of snow. It's fucking freezing. Um, we'd run out of MREs. We were literally like buying chickens from locals and stuff, and killing chickens and cooking chickens, and we had turkeys. Shitting in buckets, like
okay,
I was you're didn't shower for months. I was like, that fuck this, dude. I'm ready to go back home.
okay.
Yeah,
So when you come back to the States, is it a case of going to that, like, 6-month cycle that you mentioned? I'm guessing you had a
18
little
months.
right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So you do an 18-month workup before you're technically going to deploy again. So we
Okay, broken
jumped.
down into 3 sixes, yeah? Is that right?
Hmm.
Yeah, cool,
Yeah,
cool.
yeah.
So
And they give you like two. You come back, you get like 2 weeks with your family, which is nice because there's a huge adjustment there.
mm,
Then you go back to the team and you start figuring out where you're going for your individual training. Uh, I was able to go. I was up to go to sniper school. But sniper school is like another. I forget how. It's like 3 4 months, and you're away from your family the whole time.
mm,
You're like it. And I was like, no fucking way, dude. I just came home. I was like, I'm not leaving my kids for another 3 4 months. So I went to breacher school, which is a lot shorter and it's local to the base. So I did
okay,
breacher school. Then I did some like like more skydiving, free fall stuff, jump master, um, did some other bullshit schools. I don't know, but I didn't. And then our platoon got together and started working for that next deployment.
okay. And did you know it was gonna be Afghanistan at that point? Was you like
There was a
yeah,
lot of stuff up in the air at the time. everyone, we thought we were all, so each SEAL team has like roughly 6 platoons. Um, we all thought we were going to Afghanistan, and then it didn't work out like that. My platoon got slated to go to UCOM, so we went to Germany. When we got to Germany, this is right around the time that uh, Benghazi went down. You don't know if you remember Benghazi. It was like the embassy, U.S. consulate, whatever building got overrun, and there were some SEALs that got killed there. But they were contractors at this point. They weren't active duty, but doesn't matter anyway. They're brothers. And so when I showed up to Germany for that deployment, that was going down. So I was going to Germany thinking like, dude, this deployment, like we're just doing training, like we're not going to do anything. And I get there and the whole command's like spun up, and guys are getting on a bird to go respond to this. I was like, oh shit, are we really going hot out of here? And I was like, let's do it. They ended up not landing, but that's a whole nother sidebar. But so I was there, worked. I bounced around like Eastern Europe and went over to like Israel and stuff, and worked with different special operations teams. But it was all training. It wasn't. We weren't doing anything real. I did that for just a couple of weeks, and then I got sent to Afghanistan. We do these things called JPAT, Joint Partner Alliance Training or something. I forget what it stands for. But basically, I got sent back to Afghanistan, and I worked with you can work with different special forces units from special operations units from different countries. So there was like Romanians out there, Lithuanians, whatever. I went with the Polish. So you go and work with the Polish special forces. You act as a liaison to help them get whatever assets or intel that you can share with them to go coordinate missions with whoever's running the battle space on like the Army side of the house or Marine side of the house, depending where you are in the country. And they'll be like, you push them, you're like, hey, go target these guys or target these locations for whatever supplies or caches. And I'll help you. What do you need to get this done? Oh, well, I need 2 Blackhawks. Let me see if I can get you Blackhawks. And you go over to the Army and you just work that kind of stuff. And then you go out in the ops with them. And that was a really cool experience. I mean, it sucks not being with like your brothers from the SEAL teams.
Yeah.
You want to be around other team guys. So part of that, I did that with them for, I don't know, like 6-7 months. But during that time, like there was other SEALs that would come in and hang out for some time and go on an op or something with us. But it was the tempo was a lot different from our first deployment. My first deployment was like every day, multiple times a day, something was going on for at least like the first half of the deployment. The second one, it was like there was a lot more. There's always planning involved, but like you would work on one operation for like anywhere from like 1 to 2 weeks, and then you'd go do it. And it wasn't what our objective was to go hit caches of explosives for stuff that was being used for IED. So we go in, fly in, hang out for the night, blow up a bunch of stuff, and then get back on the birds and fly out.
Okay.
So it's totally different mission set.
Did you uh, you mentioned about Polish there. So what was it like? What was it like working with them? I know you
They
said
were
you
fucking great. Those guys are great, dude.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
They're great.
Okay.
Yeah, they're. So you have the Polish Grom, which is one unit, and then you have Polish JWK. I was able to work with both. The Grom, that some bad shit happened while we were there, and a bunch of guys got killed and hurt, and so the Grom was not operating for a little while. So all my focus went to the JWK. JWK is like the Green Berets of the Polish. And then there's another Polish unit that's like the Navy SEALs, but they weren't working in Afghanistan at the time, or at least I wasn't working with them. So I was like on the Army Polish Special Forces side. Those guys are fucking great though, dude. They're like, they're a trip to.
Oh, hang on, it broke up again.
Fuck, dude. I don't think it's my connection. I got like full bars here and everything.
Yeah, it's I don't know. It's the world. I mean, you are in America and I'm in the UK, so but you're saying the Polish are really cool to work with. And yeah, I think that's what you were saying, right?
Yeah, yeah. They made good meals. I had a good time with them. They're good to operate with. Even like when we're on an operation, though, sometimes I wasn't supposed to be, but like you weren't supposed to really go out as the only American. But sometimes I just went with them when I was only American, and they'd be like speaking Polish, and I would like look at the one guy. I'm like, what the fuck are you guys saying? But you get to a point where you understand what's going on, even if they're speaking. You pick up some of the language, but at the same time, you can just tell you're with them for so long, like you start picking up body language and everything, and you know whose job is what in the team. Like, and they really embraced me as like part of their own. So it was a fucking cool experience.
Yeah, sounds it. It sounds it. Um, and you said that was a 6 month. I mean, is there anything you wanted to share from that, from your time? Obviously, you're not with your not with your brothers. You're with the Polish, and you said they're really cool to work with, make great food and all that. But is there anything you can share from that for us?
Mm, nothing in crazy particular, and I'm always hesitant going into details on any of the stuff, but like,
Yeah,
whatever, we had a
understood.
good deployment. It wasn't super operational heavy like my first deployment was, but like we got out there and we got to go blow up some caches of
Okay,
explosives.
okay,
Yeah, but it was nothing too crazy.
yeah, all right. Coming back from there, uh, what's the next steps look like? Because at this point, I'm guessing you've done what, 8 years, 9 years, maybe?
I was at 10 years now,
You were at
so
10 years, right? Okay,
yeah, I personal family life was struggling. Obviously, I was going all the time. Um, and I noticed that, and I wanted to spend more time with my kids. And there was a combination of factors. And then the war in Afghanistan we saw coming. Like we knew the SEALs weren't going to be, particularly after this deployment, weren't going to be very active in Afghanistan anymore. Iraq was like kind of done, which it eventually picked up again later though, like 2 years later. I was like, man, I had my fill. I was like, I need to go focus on my family. Some guys in the SEAL teams that have families and are married are very fortunate that it works out really well for them and they can stay on active duty and keep operating. But that's not the case for most guys. I think the SEAL teams, the military divorce rate's high anyway, and I think the SEAL teams have the highest divorce rate anyway. So I was on the fence of like, do I go put in a package to become an officer? Do I try to go over to Damneck, which is SEAL Team 6, Dev Crew, whatever you want to call it? Do I stay in the teams? Do I go to a training command? Or do I just get out? What am I going to do if I get out? And I had no idea what I wanted to do. And so I made the choice right before I went on my deployment that I was going to apply to business schools to get my MBA. And I was like, I'm just going to apply to the best schools. And if I get it, like, you think like University of Penn, Harvard, Dartmouth, Stanford, that kind of stuff. I was like, I'm gonna apply to these top schools, and if I get accepted, I'm gonna really consider going. And I found out while I was on my deployment, um, actually a couple months before I even came home, like about 2, 3 months before I came home, I was like, oh, I got accepted to Wharton to go to university or go to Wharton Business School at University of Penn. And I grew up in Philly, so it was like moving back to my hometown. So I was like, fuck, man, that's telling me something. I'm gonna go do this, and I decided to get out and go to Wharton full time.
okay. What's it like when you put in for that, within the teams? So I'm guessing you have to give them a bit of notice and say, I'm gonna tap out."
Yeah, um, I forget what the whole process was like. I basically told them I wasn't re-enlisting, and they were like, "You sure?" You know, and they come and talk to you, and people are like, "Hey, obviously their job is to want you to stay in." Um, but some people get it, and they're like, "Hey, good luck. What do you need?" And then I stepped off the plane from Afghanistan, went home. You have to go through like a discharge process, like a bunch of shit with medical and all this other bullshit. And at the time, like I was having movers pack up my house, trying to
Right.
find a place to live in Philly, um, trying to reconnect with my family. I was going through a lot of turmoil, and then literally like within a couple of weeks, I was sitting in class at Wharton. Like I showed up to
Really?
campus.
After
Yeah,
being out there with the with the
yeah. I remember sitting in class and it was like listening, and I was at the time, I don't know, 32. So like I'm older for like the MBA program. Not crazy. Like the veterans are typically older, and Wharton has an awesome veterans club for their time. And so like you know, we would commiserate over beers and shit when we were there. But like a lot of the students there are just young, and like they think they know every. I was sitting in class and I struggled for my first for when I struggled through a transition. But I was fortunate with like the vets I was with at school that really helped, and some other stuff that was going on.
Okay. Okay. So how was that? How was that transition for you to come from the military after 10 years to like you say, sitting in a university and do that? What was your transition like?
Well, getting back into the groove of school, especially Wharton, that the academic load is I never faced an academic load like that. It was just drinking from a fire hose, and I was getting kicked in the fucking junk every day. And I at the end of my first semester, I thought I was gonna fail out. I was like very concerned I was gonna fail out. I was worried, and so I was literally spending, if I wasn't with my kids, I was spending my time in the library studying and like just making sure I wasn't going to fail out. And I let everything out. My health, my mental well being, all went out the window. Dude, I gained like 40 fucking pounds. I was you come out of the SEAL teams and you're in shape, you're ready to rock, especially if you come off a combat deployment. Like you're
Yeah.
fucking whoa, you're and then I just went totally to shit. I wasn't and on top of that, like I was just going through my own struggles just from stuff in the teams of but I was ignoring it. I was like, oh, not me. That will never happen to me. And I wasn't sleeping, and it just spirals with eating shitty foods, not working out, and it's just like dude, it was bad. It took me a little while to come back around.
Do you remember how long it took?
hmm About
Couple
5
of
years.
years? 5
Oh
years.
yeah,
Wow.
yeah. So
Okay.
I kept thinking I would get better. So it was like I was really trying to work on my sleep and work on like my physical health. And that's tough because like I had a bunch of little kids at home, whatever. And then I was trying to figure out what I was going to do with my life. So you get to the end of graduation and it's like, you got to go get a fucking job and put food on the table or keep a roof over the head. And there was a lot of stressors going on in my life. And it was a bench. And then I was trying to go through like the veteran affairs. And here in the States, it's called the VA.
Yep. Heard of
Yeah,
it.
at the time,
Yeah.
it was a fucking nightmare. And but then the SEAL teams had a really good like nonprofits that were helping with that process, and I didn't even know that really existed when I first got out. And it took I don't know, I guess it was like 2016, 2017. So about 4 years after I got out, I realized that some of the nonprofit SEAL like nonprofits that help guys transition or help families of like Gold Star families they were putting some programs into place that I'd help those like the VA, and then I got to start went to some counseling stuff, and then eventually did they started this program with like treatments with psychedelics, specifically ibogaine and 5-MeO DMT, and I think I was one of the first guys to go through it. But the at the time they were like, hey, you could go down to Mexico and they give you some fucking psychedelic drugs. This is how I was hearing it. This is not how it is, by the way. And they're like,
Mm.
and it could really help you. Like they're having great outcomes from it. And I was like, what fucking hippie bullshit is this? Like, no way. And then I started like doing some research on it, listening to other people speak about it, and then I talked to some guys that went through it who I knew personally. I was like, all right, dude, change. It's a game changer. And I was like, so I went through that process, and eventually it's like 2018, 2019. I went down to Mexico, and and I did it. And there's like a bunch of stuff you do leading up to before you have to go down to Mexico too, because in the United States these drugs are completely illegal. But um, hands down, the best thing just one of the best decisions I ever made in my life, and it was a fucking game changer. So I went down there. You start off. I'm skipping over a bunch of stuff. You have a bunch of like therapy stuff that goes on before it,
Mhm.
and it helps you lead up to it. You have doctors. They're like checking all your vitals and everything. It's very, very professional. Kids, don't try this at home.
Yeah.
Um, and my first part of it was taking ibogaine, which comes from a plant in like West Central Africa that people have been using for thousands of years. and that was that was wild. I didn't even like know what to expect from it, and really it was such a breathtaking experience. Like there's still not a day that goes by that I don't go back mentally to like what happened to me during that episode when I was on Ibogaine, and you go through a lot of healing in it, and it lasts a long time. Like you're like hardcore into it for a good like 12 to 18 hours, but the effects of it last for a long time afterwards. And then you wait like 24 hours, and then they followed up with a dose of 5-MeO DMT, which comes from the Colorado River frog, like the toad venom, and it was mind-boggling. And I came out of that a brand new fucking person. Like
Yeah.
it was a game changer, and I never wanted to go back to do it again. Like it's not one of those things where like, oh, I want to. That was fun. Let me go do it. Like, no, I'm good. Like
Okay.
I got what I needed from it. But it's and I have all my I would say 90% of my buddies from the SEAL teams who had significant combat experience, or it's some guys that didn't have a crazy combat experience, but like they've all done it, and it was a game changer for them.
Okay.
It was pretty
So
amazing.
you come out of that, I'm guessing, like, clear-headed, stronger-headed, I'm guessing bad memories, bad thoughts are put in their boxes, that kind of thing.
It's not so much about putting it in boxes. You actually really confront that when you're there, like in
You
your
do.
trip,
Right.
like in your experience. You confront that. Like if you're carrying some guilt around for something that might have happened, or if you're something with like lost teammates and lost friends, lost loved ones, you confront that. You also confront shit that was like in your brain from when you were a kid. Like, I mean, like going back to like toddler stuff. Like,
Okay.
I remember there were certain things that like I realized I was carrying around as baggage. Like, there was a kid that like took my hat on a playground when I was. You're like watching this from a third person point of view, but
Wow.
like, which is it's pretty crazy. Like something like from like Jiminy Cricket or Scrooge or something taking you like into the past,
Wow.
and you're watching and it was like a kid taking a hat from me and picking on me on a playground, and I was like too scared to beat him up. Whatever. Stupid baggage, and then like you face it and you're like, oh, this is dumb, and you get rid of it. Or if it was like I saw teammates that I lost, like best friends, and conversation with them, like, and their brother, like it's cool,
Okay. Yeah. So
and it was amazing. So you come out of that and you just you it's like taking 30 years of therapy and condensing it into like 3 days. That's
okay.
what it was.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. So you come back home, a new man. You've got your bachelor's, is that what you call it?
I have my master's at this point. Yeah.
Master's at the point, okay. Um, what's your next step in life? Because what does that bring us up to? What year does that bring us up to?
I was around 2018, 2019.
18, 19, okay. So what's kind of like the last 4 or 5 years been for you? What have you taken? What have you done?
Yeah. So going back to like 2000, so I left business school in 2015, graduated, stepped into the real world, jumped around to a couple different jobs, started a real estate company on the side, like flipping houses and multi-family tenant houses investments. I had a bunch of tenants. Ultimately started a company called ZeroEyes with some of the guys I was in the SEAL teams with, and my other co-founder Tim Solzer, who was my first boss out of the Navy. Um, and we just got tired of seeing school shootings in the United States. I
This
think,
is what ZeroEyes is doing, yeah?
yeah. So
Okay.
we are just like kind of racking our brains of what can be done, and had an idea where we use AI, computer vision, over security cameras, use the existing security cameras to detect a gun, like when a gun is out in the open. Um, and then we could take that image, use it as an alert to send the first responders and local staff to get people to safety, but also help increase situational awareness of the first responders so we could get them to the right spot by decreasing the response time. We started that company in 2018. Like we quit our jobs. We dumped all the money that we had. We used all of our credit cards. It was rough. We didn't take a paycheck for a long time, like about 3 years. Um, but the company's doing well now. We have 150 employees. We're in 40 states in America, and it's been growing significantly. And we've had some real world wins. So the mission's been told, and we 80% of our employees are vets. It's
Oh,
awesome.
nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. On that point, if anyone out there does want to like get in touch with you or potentially the business to talk more about that, is there a really good way for them to do that?
Yeah, just go to our website or just Google ZeroEyes, ZeroEyes, like the number zero, and then eyes, your eyeballs,
Yeah,
.com. And yeah, you can get in contact with us there.
that's cool. That's cool. Is there anything else that you've been up to on the side hustle, or is that just taking up your whole time?
Oh, dude, no, that takes something on
Yeah,
between that,
I bet.
remarried, um, my four, I have 4 kids. They're all involved in sports. It's work, family, man. That's it.
Nice,
If
nice.
I get spare time, I barely get time to fucking wipe my own ass, but if I got spare time, I just like to go work out or like to get out in the woods and go hunting.
Brilliant stuff. Well, I think that pretty much brings us up to date. Was there anything that we didn't get to cover during your time in the military more specifically, or did we get to cover everything that you did want to?
Yeah, it was broad, high level strokes, which is good. I always get a little uncomfortable going into super details,
Yeah,
like in front of a mass audience about some of that stuff. Some of that stuff's just for very close people in my inner circles.
yeah, understand. So didn't want to pry too much, but
No,
if we
all
if
good,
we've
man.
if we've pretty much covered everything, that's pretty awesome. So it's the time of the podcast, time of your episode, where we can actually get some advice. So the first bit of advice from you would be for anybody that's wanting to join the military, and maybe I don't know if there's any advice there for people that have got the mindset of joining like a special forces part. But any advice for those kind of people that are about to maybe start that journey?
Um, One, do it. Don't listen to the naysayers. It opens up so many other doors and you get to visit cool places around the world. It pays okay. You're always going to be fed. It's not the end of the world, but there's so many things that you can learn in there, and just not even learning from like a technical perspective with a job, but the other people from other areas of the world that you're going to have to work with. You just learn so much, and then particularly here in the states, like it help, help pay for college. You get out honorable discharge. You could get VA loans to buy your first house and stuff. There's so many benefits to it. So lean into it, go do it. And if you're going to boot camp, just keep your mouth shut, do what you have to do to get to your first command. And if times get tough, just put one foot in front of the other. I always say,
Nice.
how do you eat an elephant? Do you know? How do you eat an elephant?
Tell me.
One bite at a time.
Oh, that's good. That's good. The next bit of advice would be for veterans, and this might be advice for people that are about to transition out to civvy life for the first time and become a veteran, or
Mm.
maybe if you've got advice for people that have been out for a little while. Any advice for veterans out there?
Yeah, there's kind of it's a couple different buckets there. So if you're currently active duty, um, it's never too early to start that process. Start thinking about a resume. Definitely have a resume. It's going to help you in whatever business trade you're going to go into. And there's a ton of groups out there that will help you write that thing. So don't like sit there and be like, oh, no, to write a resume. Go ask for help. There's nothing wrong with that. There's people that have been there and done that. But start the process. Like if you're already like within 3 months, 6 months of getting out, you should have started it a year before. You should always be thinking about it because your military career is going to end at some point.
Mm,
Um, for people that are out, they're struggling. Listen, dude, I was I'm fortunate enough that I was able to find a company and a mission and a purpose with guys that I love, and it's working. I think that's very very fucking rare for that to happen for people. Um, Call it timing, whatever. And but veterans need to realize like, I think it's something At least this is how it is for like the SEALs that get out. You something like in the first 5 years of getting out of the Navy, or first 3 years, you're gonna have like 3 or 4 different jobs. That's okay, man. Go try different shit out. There's nothing wrong with that. The hardest part, I think, for people, especially from my community getting out, is like you lose that team factor, that bond. Like you really miss that when you get out. It's
Mhm.
that's a big part. But there's groups out there to bring people together in different cities. Like there's a ton of veteran groups around here. Get involved with them.
Yeah.
You don't feel like doing shit with it, then don't do shit with it. But it's like it's not going to hurt to go hang out with some of the people every now and then, and ask for help. That's it.
Yeah. Some great advice there for sure, for sure. So thanks for all of that. That's really good. How was it? How was it for you? We've pretty much come to the end now. But how was it for you coming on the show and sharing what you did?
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, I hope some people hear this and it resonates with them and it can help them. And you can find us at ZeroEyes.com. Because when I got out, I was a fucking lost puppy for a little bit, but I was fortunate enough that I had people to lean on that helped me.
Yeah, yeah. That's cool. That's cool. Well, again, thank you for everything that you've shared on your episode and what you've gone through during your time in the military. And also, thank you for your time. As you just mentioned, you're a busy guy. So, giving up some of your time for the show to share your stuff and have your episode created. Thank you for doing that.
Yeah, rock on. Thank you for doing the show. This type of stuff that helps people, man.
Yeah, no worries. And I say this to all my guests. Thank you for your service.
Yeah, likewise, Gavin.
Thanks so much. Thanks so much.
Yeah, rock on.
Cheers, Mike.
Cheers.
This has been Military Veterans Podcast out.